Hi everyone, Dave here at East Rosebud Fly and Tackle in Billings, Montana. Welcome. I know it's been a while. The rumors of my early death have been a bit exaggerated, I know. I apologize. It's just that we've been so busy here at the shop, opening 2 additional stores, trying to get all this material corralled up in a POS system. So hopefully I'm back in the saddle here and we can get this to you at least once every month or so. So the first one I'm going to tie for you is actually a fly that I just did as a lark. It appeared in the autumn version of Fly Tyer magazine. Ord Clarke, who is a Norwegian tyer and an outstanding tyer, just outstanding. He had this in the magazine, so I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a try. Well, it's been a top seller here at the shop. So this is called a jelly bean. I don't know the history of this fly, so I don't want to take anybody's credit for this. I certainly didn't develop it, but it's a cool little fly. It can be tied in a variety of colors. You can use ostrich herl, which I'm using here. You could use hackle. You can tie it in any variety of different colors, wires, everything. The key components really are just a scud hook, some type of wire. I'm using a brassy UTC wire. And then the most important part, of course, is the ostrich and then the topping. I'm using Solares. This is the medium. The thin is just runs too quickly. It's hard to capture and cure before it gets out of hand. And the thick is too thick. So it's kind of like the 3 bears. This is the one in the middle. There are a couple of different tips that can be used. Unfortunately, the ones that Loon sells also fits these bottles. So the green one, which they typically sell with the thickest stuff, or this pink one, it's up to you. I think the pink gives me a little bit better control, so that's what we're going to use. Fluorescent thread is important. I'm using UTC 140 fluorescent pink thread, and we might as well get to work. So we're going to lay a thread base here. Just a little bit around the bend. Don't worry too much about a real even thread base. It's going to be covered with the ostrich herl. Go ahead and flatten your thread, which is a nice characteristic of UTC thread. Then I'm going to take some brassy wire, just a few inches here for one fly. Then we'll tie this wire in. I'm going to tie it on the far side of the hook. I think what I'm going to do is lower my chair. How about that? All the way down to the end of your thread base. Now, since the ostrich doesn't leave much of a footprint, I don't really tie it all the way back up to the eye. Plus, the way I do it, it's still going to take about a 5-inch herl to get this done. Now, if you run out of ostrich when you're wrapping it, you can certainly phase in a second piece. It's not that big of a deal, but it does take quite a bit of ostrich. When you tie in the ostrich, you want to make sure that the quill is against the hook shank, because we're going to flip this when we wrap it so that the quill is forward. You'll see how bushy that makes the body. And ostrich is just like peacock in that way. So if you've never done this before with ostrich or peacock, you'll be amazed how much it fluffs out. Plus, it makes the tie-off much cleaner because the quill will be leading each wrap. So make sure, again, with ostrich and peacock, the herl does not grow directly off of the sides. It grows in a Y-shaped pattern. We want to make sure we have the actual quill down against the fly, against the hook, pardon me. Tie it to the back, and then I'll bring my thread forward. And just to get it out of the way, I'm going to hang it on my bobbin holder. Now, you can use the rotary function of your hook or of your vise, if you like, on this. I find that until I get around the hook point itself, I like to wrap it by hand to give me more control. But remember, what you're wrapping here is a spring. So if you let go of this, this is going to unwind faster than you can come up with a bad word. So you want to make sure that when you're winding this, the quill part is leading and the herl is following. That way we get the maximum density. Take your time, particularly at the tip. The herl is not that thick, so it's easy to break. Just continue to wrap this forward and touching wraps. I'm sure my cameraman can speed this up. You do want to make sure you get it on hackle pliers though as soon as you can. Again, if you let go of that, the whole thing is going to unwrap. I find it also makes the tie off more secure. So still the quill is leading. We're going to carefully wrap this to right behind the eye. This fly is not difficult to tie. It is time consuming in some parts, wrapping this, and also the many layers of Solarez I'm going to apply, but it is an easy fly to tie, and it's very effective. I'm sure it's being used for more things than just a scud. Couple of wraps to tie that off securely. It can be difficult sometimes when you have a curved hook. The whip finish wants to slip off. The trick is make sure the barrel of your whip finish tool is on the same plane as the hook itself. Then it won't slip off. Now next I'm going to dampen this and lay this herl down to the bottom of the fly. The trick here is not to use any more water than you have to, and as you know, I am not a proponent of putting this stuff in my mouth. A lot of these dyes are really not all that permanent. So I just have a sponge with a little bit of water and just press it down underneath the hook. The wetter you get this, the longer it takes this ostrich to dry. So it does not need to be all that wet. And then using this UV Cure resin, you want to make sure that all of your layers, and it's going to take several layers, are very, very thin. That's why I'm using this thinner nozzle. And you want it tapered. So make sure that you let off. Solarez recommends a 1-second flash cure. Let it sit for about 10 seconds. That's to help dissipate some of the heat from that catalytic conversion. And then come back again 10 seconds. So as we're building this body up, you want to make sure it's actually more control of squeezing the bottle than anything, and your placement of your layers. We want to make sure we're making a tapered body, underbody. So my next layer is going to start short of where I started the previous, and I'm going to stop short of where I did the previous. That way we keep this semicircular shape. And keep it thin. You can always come in with your bodkin, push this around if you don't like where it's at. And this is part of the time-consuming process, is just curing these layers. We want an underlayer that's thick enough to where the wire will appear to be floating in between the different layers of resin. And I find that it typically takes me a good 3, sometimes 4 under layers until I get the height that will give me that. And this particular light from Solarez is their most powerful light. You can feel the heat. If I was using any smaller light, I would be curing it for 2 or 3 times longer than I am here. So our next layer, again, we start a little shorter of where we ended the other. Almost there. I'm not sure how well you can see the difference between the actual top of the ostrich and the top of our layers of Solarez, but it does take a few layers. Don't get in a hurry and try to make them thick, because before you can get the light on them, they're starting to slide off of the side, which is not really what you want. And you can put your resin either direction, just depends on what you're comfortable with. All right, I think that'll be enough. We can wrap our wire next time. And if you've used the minimum amount of moisture, when you push this ostrich down, it'll be almost dry by the time it's time to wrap the wire. And that just makes wrapping the wire that much easier. It goes between the herl and doesn't attract it. So we take our wire. Sometimes you need a bodkin just to make a separation. Make as many wraps as you like. Well, I have tied many, many dozens of these, and this is about as fast as I can make them, whatever this time is. So now we'll take a layer over the wire. And because I'm right-handed, I can't see this front side as well. I want to make sure that I have some UV resin where I have my wire crossing. Once again, we hit it with the light. Come off of it. Check your wire. Make sure that it's, you can break it off or you can cut it off. But what I have found that this UV cure, even though it's cured, it's not at its maximum hardness. I always put these up in the window for 12 hours or whatever for the final hardness. I find that if I try to twist the wire off, I end up breaking some of this UV resin off. So I just go ahead and cut it. Now we're just going to make a layer or two just to give this impression of this floating wire. It really is a fun fly. And one thing you can do to give this fly a little more motion, of course the motion is in the gills here itself. I impress onto all my fly tying students that movement is the key factor in any fly. It's what fish look for. It's what they've learned. It's a very young fry that if it moves, it's edible. You can put on a thicker top coat and simply let gravity adjust this resin and give you a more humped back shape. What this does is this makes this unbalanced. So when you retrieve this slowly through the water, it actually helps to flip this fly. So it just gives it a little bit of extra movement. And if I hadn't told you that, you probably wouldn't realize that's what that's for. And this final cure is going to be it. So hopefully you can see through the camera how this rib seems to float in a transparent field. It's a very, very hardy fly, as you can imagine. I can think you're going to lose it long before this thing is going to come apart, since it's solid resin. Well, anyway, give it a try, have some fun. It doesn't take much in the way of materials. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know, and we'll see you next time.